We're in conversation with Doug McCollough, the CIO of the City of Dublin, Ohio. And we're going to be talking about some of the exciting smart city initiatives that Dublin is working on. So Doug, thank you so much for taking the time to be here with us today.
Thank you.
So Doug, there is so much of exciting stuff happening in Dublin, right? So talk to us about the US 33 Cooridor Project, as well as some of the initiatives that you guys are working on in mobility, in digital healthcare, as well as energy management.
Sure. So we're very excited about getting involved in smart mobility. For us, it's connected and autonomous vehicles. We start with the infrastructure that's necessary, which is really wireless. We're using dedicated short-range communications, a wireless standard, on roadside units and infrastructure as well as inside vehicles. And what we're doing is creating an environment in which connected vehicles can be tested, that we can gather data from them, and we can learn. We believe that connected vehicles come before autonomous vehicles, but the City of Dublin is really wanting to provide a real-world environment where some of these technologies can be tested. We're very close by the Transportation Research Center, which is more of a closed track. There's a lot of testing and R&D happening there, but we're finding that companies such as yours are looking for communities where these technologies can be tested with real human beings walking past, real traffic signals, and those kinds of situations, real weather conditions. We also believe that connected and autonomous vehicles is one of the most important on-ramps to the rest of smart cities. When we talk about healthcare, we really are talking about people gaining access to the healthcare delivery system, which more often than not is involving mobility. People being able to get their drugs and their medications to themselves and get themselves to appointments and those kinds of things. So that's a focus for how we think healthcare is going to be changed where that's concerned. And all of the technologies that we're working on have to do with people having a different experience in their communities. And the companies that are working here are applying these technologies in this way.
That's interesting. So you know about Larsen and Toubro and some of the large-scale smart city initiatives that they're doing in India. So are there any best practices that you can adopt from them?
Absolutely. One of the best practices is we tend to work in Ohio. We have been working on small scale, kind of one-off projects to prove a particular technology. What we have not worked so much on is integrating that to the complete and total view of a city. Cities are not completely controlled just by their local government. They are also involved, the companies there, nonprofits, there's many different aspects of the community. But we have a lot of technologies that are working pretty well. But we have not seen how they work in a complete integrated city. And the example we're seeing from L&T is how that can work and be designed that way from the very beginning.
Great. So, switching gears a little bit, Columbus won the Smart City Federal Award in 2016, and it became Smart Columbus. And now the investments have swelled to over $500 million in the region, right? So how do you see this region evolving as a hub for technology startups to mushroom and develop?
Well, first of all, when you put $500 million on the table, you get some attention. And many startups who wouldn't have dreamed of staying here in Columbus, where the idea may have been born, are thinking about staying here. In addition, the kind of data and other companies and partners that are available make this an ideal environment for someone who has an idea that want to work in smart cities. You do not have to leave Columbus. What that has allowed to happen, you see with Smart Columbus in the latest phase of its development, is opening the doors, more specifically targeting startups and students as drivers of how Smart Columbus is going to grow. And that's a really interesting development, because while large companies and governments and subject matter experts are important, we think it's time to have the app makers and the developers come in, and those companies can be very, very small. But once again, we feel like the innovations are going to come from that sector more so than any other.
So getting into this a little more, I think one of the most important thing with smart cities would be the talent pool that you have. So how do you think the Ohio State University, as well as engineering companies like L&T Technology Services, can help create this talent for you guys?
Well, there are a lot of initiatives going on in the region having to do with talent development, retention, attraction, and I think, first of all, Ohio State University is a world-class university. Just churning out engineers with degrees is not going to be sufficient for the complete workforce that we need. We need those engineering skills, but we also need a plethora of supporting skills that the university is already churning out as well. But we're sitting in, for example, the Dublin Entrepreneurial Center, and we have other projects happening with students, graduate students as well, from Ohio State University, for example. One of those projects that we're working with in Dublin involves environmental sensors, which will measure the particulate matter in the air, and some students are working on that project. We're working with graduate students from the John Glenn School of Public Policy on our data management and our data platform. And so we have people who are not all technicians or technologists, working on the data and creating a professional class that we think will last here in the Columbus, Ohio region for a long time.
Interesting. So, we spoke about the startup community.
Mm-hmm.
Now let's talk about the global companies. So is that important to Dublin? And what kind of support system do you guys have to, incentivize these global companies to come in here and do their R&D work?
Absolutely. Global companies, large organizations, first of all, they require or desire a very simple, easy business environment, and we're doing that. We have an extraordinary number of Fortune 1000 companies, headquarters in this city, more so than many other cities that you would see. We support that with some infrastructure, particularly telecommunications. The Dublin fiber optic system has been in place for 20 years now, and we have recently added to that the Dublin 100 gigabit transport network, which is in operation here in the Metro data environment. And these are the kinds of things that we find companies really need. We do a lot of dark fiber deals with companies, and they have a lot of cost savings that will come from that. We work significantly with companies on workforce. If we make a promise that if you come here, you're going to get some of the most talented individuals in the United States, we don't just have you come here and hunt for them. We have events with you and do things so that you're one of our partners in the region as opposed to just someone who has to fend for themselves.
That's great. So finally, Doug, how do you see engineering companies like L&T Technology Services play a big part in areas such as decarbonization, healthcare, autonomous cars, and all the other smart city initiatives that you guys are aiming for?
Sure. Well, it's interesting. I'll give you an example. In cities of our size, we can dream, we can imagine, and we can design, and we can think about. We really know our citizens. We know what kind of services and experiences they are going to demand, and we know what kind of resources are available and how long it will take. But we do not have the engineering talent that can help us really create something that is sustainable and able to be maintained for the long term. We've started thinking about things like smart grid and microgrid, and we're fascinated by it. There may be funding available for this type of work. We have new facilities that would be excellent candidates for experimenting in these areas, but we don't have the engineering and design talent. So we need to build the kind of ecosystem where companies like yours are able to help us envision what it is we're thinking about and partner with us and kind of co-develop along those lines. That's ways that companies such as yours could really help out our city and cities just like us.
So Doug, that was so very insightful. Thank you so much for taking time off to be with us.
Absolutely. Thank you.
So that was Doug, the CIO of the City of Dublin, Ohio. Thank you.